A curly-headed kid with a sunshiny smile heard the roar of a plane as it sailed through the sky. To a playmate she cried with a bright twinkling eye, "My daddy rides that ship in the sky. Oh, my daddy rides that ship in the sky. My daddy rides that ship in the sky. Mama's not afraid and neither am I, 'cause my daddy rides that ship in the sky." Then a pug-nosed kid, as he kicked up his heel, says, "My daddy works in the iron and the steel. Yes, my daddy makes planes so they fly through the sky, and that's what keeps your daddy up there so high. Oh, that's what keeps your daddy up there so high. That's what keeps your daddy up there so high. If you're not afraid, then neither am I, 'cause my daddy keeps your daddy up in the sky."
We're people, we're animals, we're flowers and birds in flight. I said we're people, we're animals, we're flowers and birds in flight. All together, and we're all family under one sky, family under one sky. Can't hear, we're all family under one sky. We've got dark skin, we've got light skin, we've got straight hair and curly too. We speak English, we speak Spanish. We're different, but we're the same. Here you go, and we're all the family under one sky. We're the family under one sky. We're all the family under one sky. Family under one sky once more.
So famous because he can do so much being tiny, weaving this incredible web. It's like magic. And his name is Anansi, the spider. There's loads of books and loads of tales about Anansi, so be sure and check some of them out at the library. This is one where Anansi is not so much a trickster as he can't control himself. They ever talk about self-control with you here at school? He has a problem with self-control. The one I want to tell you is about Anansi and the pot of beans. Here's how it goes. One time, one spring, Anansi's grandmother asked Anansi if he would help her plant beans. She said, "Anansi, I'm fixing your favorite food, spicy beans, and when you finish planting, we'll fix up a nice big dinner and we'll eat together." "Oh, Grandma," he said, "I love spicy beans." She said, "I know it. You come over and help me on Saturday." Well, Saturday he got there and she showed him how to plant and where to plant. And then she went in the kitchen and she began to prepare the beans. She took the beans, which had been soaking in the water overnight, And she put them in the pot, and she put in some new water and built a fire and started those beans cooking. But when she went to the cupboard to look for the spices to put in the spicy beans, they were all gone. She had used them all up, and the tins were empty. Well, she went out to Anansi. She said, Anansi, I have to go to the store and get some more spices. You continue doing your work, and when I get back, I'll put in the spices and we'll cook dinner and we'll have a wonderful meal. But Anansi, she said, whatever you do, don't go and touch those beans. They're very hot and you could burn yourself. What did I say, Anansi? He said, I won't touch himself standing right in front of that pot of beans. Well, she said, don't touch the beans. It won't hurt if I smell them. Took the top off. Oh, Anansi loved beans. He said, it won't hurt if I just take a taste. Grandma doesn't have to know. Sitting right there was her wooden spoon, and it looked kind of lonely, so Anansi picked it up. And he took a taste. He took it out of the bowl. He blew on it. It was good. Maybe just one more. Maybe another. I've had 3. The 4th one's not going to make any difference. Well, Anansi got to thinking he'd like some more of that, and he wanted it to cool faster, so he took off his hat and he put the beans in the hat. Well, a moment later, there was some yelling out in the field, and some neighbors were yelling, "Get out of here, you nasty birds! Get out of here! Get away from Grandma's beans! Get away from here!" Well, the birds suddenly flew in the kitchen window where Anansi was, and the neighbors started pounding on the door. They said, "Anansi, let us in, let us get those birds, they're eating Grandma's beans." They were pounding and pounding, and Anansi thought, what am I going to do with this hat full of beans? I don't want them to see me with this hat full of beans. Well, I'll bet you can predict what Anansi did, can't you? He took that hat full of beans, which had not had time to cool, and put it on his head and opened the door. There stood Anansi with that hat full of hot beans on his head. And the neighbors came in and they chased the birds out of there, and they started to leave, and there was Anansi. He was standing there with sweat dripping down his face, looking like this. They said, "Anansi, what happened? Did those birds hurt you?" He said, No, I've just been sweating a lot. I've been working all morning. You can go now. I'm okay." But they were concerned. They said, "Anansi, you're sure they didn't hurt you?" Anansi was starting to cry from the pain. He was going like this. They said, "Anansi, are you okay?" They didn't know what was the matter. Anansi said, Yes, I'm okay. You can go now." They said, "Anansi, we want to help you." At this point, Anansi couldn't stand still. He started shaking his hat to get the beans to move around and going back on one foot and then the other. They said, "Anansi, that's a wonderful dance. What do you call that?" He said, "It's the hat-shaking dance. It's the hat-shaking dance." Woo! Can you do that with me? Shake your hat.
Going now to Latin America. This is underneath the United States. Latin America goes all the way from Mexico down through Central America, down into South America. That's Latin America. They have lots of wonderful markets in Latin America. There's a food market. There's a market with lots of crafts like I've got there. There's my sister-in-law and my nephews in a market in San Miguel de Allende in Mexico. And here's a song about going to the market to buy some musical instruments. I'm going to have you help me do this. And I want you to not just sing this, I want you to help me play the instruments. There's Jose Luis Orozco. This comes from a book of his called Diez Deditos, and other playwrights and action songs from Latin America. Here's another book with other great songs. There'll be a guitar, there'll be a clarinet and clarinete, there'll be a violin, and then a cello, which is pronounced violon in Spanish, and there'll be a tambor or a hand drum.
So we're going to have all of those things in this song, and I want you to somebody who goes to La Pulga, the flea market, and he buys a bunch of different instruments. And the fun of it is that you get to pretend you're playing those different instruments. Okay? So it goes like this. En la pulga de San Jose yo compré una guitarra. And then you play your guitar. Can you hold up your hands like you're playing a guitar? One hand goes out like that and the other strums. Ta-da-ta-da-ta-da la guitarra. Sing that with me while you play. Ta-da-ta-da-ta-da la guitarra. Now you guys can play too back there if you like. Ta-da-ta-da-ta-da la guitarra. Then sing by usted, which means you go to. By usted, a la pulga de San Jose. You go to la pulga de San Jose. That's it. En la pulga de San Jose yo compré un tuntún, el tambor or drum. Tuntún, el tuntún. Lon, lon, violon. Lin, lin, violin. Nete, 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 clarinete. Tada, 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 la guitarra. By usted, a la pulga de San Jose. By usted, a la pulga de San Jose. Was the founder of Islam. The holy book is not the Bible, it's the Quran. And there are 5 pillars. To believe in no God but Allah, and Allah just means God in Arabic. To believe in God, and that Muhammad is his prophet. To pray 5 times a day. To fast during the month of Ramadan. To give a share of your personal wealth to the poor. That's one of the 5 pillars. And to perform a pilgrimage, which a lot of people don't get to do, but that's a goal, to Mecca at least once in a lifetime. And many Muslim women wear a hijab over their head. Okay? Now most mosques, the equivalent of a church, don't look like that. That's a big and beautiful one in the capital of Turkey, Istanbul. And it just happens that the first story I'm going to tell you comes from that country of Turkey. It's one of many, many stories told about a man who really lived, whose name was Nasredin. Hoja wasn't really his last name. Hoja means teacher. He was considered a teacher, but he taught in a very odd way. Many of the stories that people have been telling ever since show him sometimes acting very foolish, and other times he acts very wise. And sometimes there's kind of a mix of the two. The story I want to tell you, I learned from another book, but you can find a version of it in the picture book called The Hungry Cook. Okay? It goes like this. One time, the Hoja was invited to a banquet at the home of the Mukhtar, a very important man in his village. Now, the Hoja was considered a wise man, Nasredin, in his village. And he loved to eat. So being invited to a banquet was perfect. All day long as he was working in the garden, he was thinking, all that delicious food. As I'm eating that food, people will be asking my opinion about all kinds of interesting things. It will be great. All day long he was thinking about that as he was working in the garden, and he was thinking so hard that he didn't pay attention to the time. And he discovered when he had finished and he went home that if he wanted to bathe and he wanted to dress up in his fine clothes, he was going to be late for the banquet. He didn't want to do that. So he went on to the banquet in his work clothes, with dirt on his clothes and dirt on his hands, dirt on his face. And when he walked into the banquet, even though he was sure that the Mukhtar recognized him, the Mukhtar didn't pay him any attention. In fact, nobody did. And they seated him at the end of a long table in the back of the hall. And when the food finally came down to his end of the table, there was nothing left. So the Hoja, with his stomach empty and his feelings hurt, slipped out of the banquet and he went back home. When he got home, he bathed himself completely, and then he put on his finest clothes. He put on an elegant shirt and baggy pants and a great big turban, and on top of it all, he put on his new fur coat. Well, this time, when he got to the banquet, the Mukhtar rose to meet him. And the servant took him and seated him right there beside the Mukhtar in the place of honor. The servants brought him tray after tray of delicious food, and he would take the foods and people were asking him questions, but as he took the food, he didn't eat it. He started stuffing it into the pockets of his coat. And when he ran out of room in the pockets, he started rubbing it into his shirt. He was rubbing it all over his shirt, and the kids thought it was funny, you know. Here he was, the wise man in town, and he was rubbing food in his shirt. But the Mukhtar was kind of embarrassed, and he watched him for a while, and finally he said, Hoja, he said, what are you doing? Have you lost your mind? No, said the Hoja, I haven't lost my mind. I'm just trying to teach you a little lesson. You see, when I came here earlier dressed in my work clothes, you barely acknowledged me and you seated me in a corner way back in the corner of the hall where there was no food left for me and really no one to talk to. When I came back dressed in these elegant clothes, you treated me as the guest of honor. Well, I haven't changed. I'm the same person who came here before. It's only my clothes that have changed. So, it must be my clothes that you're honoring. Out of respect, I'm feeding them first. Eat my clothes, he said. You are the guest of honor. And with that, he stood up and he left the hall. It's not important what a person looks like on the outside, it's the person inside. You see, Abby was in 6th grade and she was smart, but she hated to work and study. And she was about to fail 6th grade, and her teacher said she needed to do something if she wanted to pass. Well, Abby offered to study much harder and do an extra credit project. So the teacher told her to do an extra credit project to have a pen pal in a foreign country. Well, her favorite thing to do was to climb a rock wall that was at the school. So she looked for a rocky country, and she saw Afghanistan, and she thought, well, I'll correspond with somebody there. Well, one day, a letter arrived from Abby from the United States at a little one-room schoolhouse in the capital of Afghanistan. And they had to decide who would answer that letter. Well, they picked Saeed because he was the best student in the class. But then there was a problem. You see, Saeed was a boy, and according to their custom, it was not polite for a boy to be corresponding with a girl. And so they got Saeed's sister to actually sign the letters and write down her name. Well, as they corresponded, they told all kinds of interesting things about each other and learned a lot, but they discovered that there were an awful lot of prejudices in both countries, and a lot of people who didn't even want them to correspond because one country hated the other and the other country hated them. And so they learned a lot, and the people who were around them learned a lot. In a way, this book is kind of an extension of the story that I just told you about Nasredin Hoja. Great book.
If we could consider each other a neighbor, a sister, or brother, it could be a wonderful, wonderful world. It could be a wonderful world. Oh yes, it could be a wonderful world.
If each little kid could have fresh milk each day, if
if we could consider each other a neighbor, a sister, or brother, it could be a wonderful, wonderful world. It could be a wonderful world. Oh yes, it could be a wonderful world.
What is a folktale? Let's see who knows what it is.
It is something like not real, but it could happen.
Yeah, stop right there, okay?
It's a story that's been passed down from generation to generation.
There you go, okay. The idea with a folktale is how it's come along. There's all kinds of different folktales, but the basic idea is it's been passed along from generation to generation. And the reason that there are all these folk tales around is that if you go back 100 or 150 years ago, all the things that we use, all the devices like TVs and movie theaters and smartphones and computers, all that stuff, record players and radios, none of that was here. If you wanted to hear a story, somebody had to tell you that story right there where you were sitting. And so that's what people would do in the evening, was they would tend to sit around and sing old songs and tell old stories. And they had learned them from when they were kids. And they grew up and they told them to their kids. Okay? And over time, they will tend to change, and you can find different versions of them in different places. Who knows what this is called? That's right, this is a banjo.
I've never heard one.
And instruments change just like songs do. The banjo has changed a lot. The banjo came to this country from Africa. When black people came to this country, they brought a little banjo with them. There are still, in Africa, there's about 60 different instruments that resemble the banjo, that have a round head with a skin over it usually, and a neck with some strings on it. But now the banjo is used a lot by all kinds of people who like to play mountain music and bluegrass. Now here's an old mountain song, and it's real easy to sing. I wish I was a mole in the ground. Oh, I wish I was a mole in the ground. If I was a mole in the ground, I'd root that mountain down. And I wish I was a mole in the ground. Can you try that, Lee? I wish I was a mole in the ground. Sing it again. Oh, I wish I was a mole in the ground. Oh, you sing great. If I was a mole in the ground, I'd root that mountain down. And I wish I was a mole in the ground. Well, I wish I was a lizard in the spring. Oh, I wish I was a lizard in the spring. If I was a lizard in the spring, I would hear my darling sing. And I wish I was a lizard in the spring. Mole in the ground, let me sing it. I wish I was a mole in the ground. Oh, I wish I was a mole in the ground. If I was a mole, I was a mole in the ground. I'd root that mountain down. And I wish I was a mole. About these old songs is a lot of them were made up by just ordinary people like you and me and your teachers and your mommy and poppy and your grandma and grandpa. So I thought it's always fun to see if we can make up a verse to this song. All you need is an animal and a place that that animal is. Maybe what it does. Who's got an idea for an animal? Okay? Ooh. How about if I was a lion? I wish I was a lion in the den. If I was a lion in the den, what would I do? What would I do if I was a lion in the den?
Hunt for food. I'll bring a zebra in.
I'd what?
I bring a zebra
Bring a zebra in. Well, the lion's got to eat, and that rhymes. He's got a good sense of rhyme. Let's do that one. I say go with that one. I wish I was a lion in the den. Oh, I wish I was a lion in the den. If I was a lion in the den, I'd bring a zebra in. And I wish I was a lion in the den. Let's try one more. Anybody? Now, there's different kinds of folk tales, and I'm going to give you some samples of them. We sometimes call them genres or subgenres, and one is the tall tale. Now, a tall tale is partly true. It starts with a real situation that would actually happen. And very often, usually in fact, the teller kind of acts as if he didn't know that he was stretching the truth. He kind of acts like he's telling you the truth, but he's really exaggerating. And he's telling it just for the fun of it. He doesn't believe it. He's just telling it for the fun of it. You know, one of the things we like to do in reading now in school is get kids to read nonfiction, which is an information book, and fiction, which is a story made up on the same topic. It's fun to do that about animals, because animals sometimes have stories that have been made up about them a long time ago. And I'm going to tell you a story about a possum. Now, who can tell me something that a possum does that helps it survive from its predators? It plays dead, that's right. And the reason it does that is that when a predator comes to eat it, if it thinks it's already dead, it thinks, oh, that's not fresh meat, that's not very good, it's been laying around for a while. But if it kills it itself, it knows, oh, that's fresh meat, that's going to taste good. So the possum plays dead. Well, in this story, which is a tall tale, the possum who's playing dead, the story's going to exaggerate what he does when he plays dead, okay? So here's the story. It's very quick. I was out in the swamp, and I was trapped all the day. I come back into the camp, and I say to my wife, what you have fixed to eat? I am very hungry. She say, not much, vieux, not much. I pick up a few shrimp and a crab, and with them I make a gumbo. A gumbo is a soup. Ah, chérie, I say, a gumbo is very little for a man fatigued like me, a man tired like me. Why you not kill a chicken? She say, we only have one chicken left. It would be a mortal sin kill a beast like that. Well, just then I hear a caw out in the backyard. I throw open the door, I go out in the backyard, and there is a rat de bois, have our last hen by the neck. I pick up a stick, I give him a grand coup de bâton. I put his feet in the air. I say to my wife, look, look, the bon Dieu is bon, the good Lord is good to us. Now we're going to have meat to eat. So I take the hide over to Zebby. He the fur trader in the next camp. He going to take that hide and he going to sell it. He take that hide and he give me a bottle of wine for trade. I take that bottle of wine back and everything has come good. My wife, she fix up some bread, she fix up a stew, and a little while later, I open the oven to see how everything is going. Now maybe you not believe this, but I open that oven and there is the rat de bois. He's standing up in the pan. He had eat the potatoes, he had drink the grease, he come running out the door, he run between my wife's legs, knock over the bread, knock over the wine, he go running out through the door. He grab that hand and he go running off. And that's not all. That night, he go back into Zebby's camp, he take the hide off of the wall, and he put it back on. Now that's something, huh? So you're all a little confused by that, fifth graders? Did you understand what happened? It exaggerated. He played dead so well, he stayed alive in that oven at 450 degrees. And while he was there, he ate up the stew, And then he came back on, and that's not all. He came back out, and he went back to Zebby, who had his hide, and he took that hide off of the stretching board, he put it back on, and he ran off. Now, could a possum really do that? No, it's an exaggeration, but it's based on something true, which is that a possum plays dead. Miss Gruber wanted me to especially remember to play my dulcimer.
My daddy
Because, this is a real old-timey instrument from the mountains. It's not as well known as the banjo or guitar, but it's a real good instrument. Now, you can kind of see how people went to making up songs sometimes from this song. This song is called Waterbound and I Can't Get Home. You see, if you live way back in the mountains where there are deep valleys and it rains, that rain collects pretty soon in those valleys. It fills them up. That happened to me once when I was out in the mountains. I was singing with some kids back in a little community center way back in the mountains, and it rained and poured, and when I went to drive out of there, I got to that valley, and the water was about this deep. I couldn't get through it. I was waterbound. I couldn't get through the water. Now, I was lucky that somebody showed me a little back road up over the mountain I could get out, but if not, I'd have to just stay there overnight with one of my friends, and that's what's happening in this song. Now, the chorus goes like this. Waterbound and I can't get home. Waterbound and I can't get home. Waterbound, I can't get home down in North Carolina. Can you sing that with me?
Yeah.
Waterbound and I can't get home. Waterbound and I can't get home. Waterbound and I can't get home down in North Carolina. Chickens crowing in the old plow field. Chickens are crowing in the old plow field. Chickens are crowing in the old plow field down in North Carolina. Waterbound and I can't get home. Waterbound and I can't get home. Waterbound I can't get home down in North Carolina. Me and Sam and Dave going home. Me and Sam and Dave going home. Me and Sam and Dave going home for the water rises. Waterbound and I can't get home. Hey, waterbound and I can't get home. Waterbound I can't get home down in North Carolina. And imagine a long time ago, and you were an immigrant who came to this country from another place, like many, many people did, and you had a farm, and a lot of things went wrong, but you did the best you could, and you felt like the land was sweet and good, and you did what you could. When I first came to this land, I was not a wealthy man, so I got myself a son, and I did what I could, or a daughter, and I called my son, my work's done. I called my wife, what the love of my life. I called my duck, and I called my cow, and I called my shack, and I called my farm, the muscle in my arm. But the land was sweet and good, and I did what I could. I say your name. Promise to amplify my mind. Open up my heart. Make every day seem new. Tickle my funny bones. Zap my scary zone. Read all the summer through. Yeah, boy. Okay, there you go. Let's try that chorus with me. I'm gonna amplify my mind. I'm gonna open up my heart. I'm gonna make every day seem new. Gonna tickle my funny bone. Gonna tickle my funny bone. I'm gonna zap my scary zone. I'm gonna read all the summer through. And you can make up your own verses to this. A lot of these are verses that the kids at our school made up. I'm gonna read my way around the world at the public library, at the public library, at the public library. I'm gonna read my way around the world at the public library and read all the summer through. Help me sing that chorus. I'm gonna amplify my mind. I'm gonna open up my heart. I'm gonna make every day seem new. I'm gonna tickle my funny bone. I'm gonna zap my scary zone. I'm gonna read all the summer through. Amplify means to make something bigger. I'm kind of wishing I had an amplifier for my voice right now. But as you read, your mind's going to get bigger. You're not going to have open heart surgery, but you may feel sad or happy when you read something sad or happy in a book. Okay? And every day is going to seem new because you'll have a different book that you can read. I'm going to put on a cape and fly to France with Captain Underpants, with Captain Underpants. With Captain Underpants, I'm gonna put on my cape and fly to France. With Captain Underpants, I'm gonna read all the summer through. Help me sing that. I'm gonna amplify my mind. I'm gonna open up my heart. I'm gonna make every day seem new.